The squat, one of the best exercises for the lower body. But the question is, what's your best depth? Should you go full depth? Should you go partial? Should you go parallel? Some swear by going full for greater strength and mobility, and some swear by partial for greater power and speed. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at each of the different depths, and we're going to look at the similarities that the science has between them, the differences, the advantages of either and the disadvantages of either. And then what we'll do when we get to the end is we'll summarize it in 4 simple points. So without further ado, let's get into it. A quick preface before we get started. This isn't an exhaustive episode on squat depth. Everything that I'm talking about I have referenced. It will be down below in the comment section, so if you want to check out any of those references, please do so. The point of this video is not to persuade anyone that one is better than the other. The point is to understand and go a level deeper when it comes to understanding how the squat works, and don't just buy into the idea that deep squats are the best squats since sliced bread, or that partial squats are the best squats since sliced bread. They both have their advantages and disadvantages that we will discuss. So let's first of all get into similarities. Now, in the broadest sense, and this is what I'm talking about because we are going to cover this in a little bit more depth when we come to it, both versions, both deep squats and parallel squats, they both produce strength gains. So you will get strength gains within your lower body. If we take it a level deeper, then we can look at where those strength gains happen in what different squat. That's different. But as a general rule, you will get stronger if you do squats and if you progressively overload those squats, whether it's parallel or deep squats. And this is shown in a study which reviewed 15 studies looking at all these different types of squats using, we've got the flywheel, we've got the half squat, we've got the full squat, we've got the Smith's machine, so parallel squats, jump squats, so all of these different squats have been reviewed, and all of them show that there is a strength gain in the lower body. Another similarity is the setup. So with regards to deep squats, they all use hips, knees, with regards to deep squats and parallel squats, they all use hips, knees and ankles. So with regards to the movement, they are the same. With regards to, certainly in a general sense, now again, for most of the population, having the feet just wider than shoulder width is going to serve them just fine. Again, if you want to take it a level deeper, you can look at hip anatomy, you can look at femur length, and you can start to understand a little bit more in the specifics of where your foot position should be. But in the general sense, foot position will serve people just fine, shoulder width apart. So with regards to all of the squats, the moving joints are the same and the setup is the same. The final thing, again, that is similar between all of these, and there is one caveat to this, is the maintenance of the natural curve of the spine. The only time when you would sort of allow the spine to round, if you will, would be in bodyweight squats. So bodyweight full squats, there are very few people that will be able to get down into that position with a neutral spine or a natural curve to the spine. Most people will come out of that, but in a bodyweight squat they are at least risk of injury. And if you want to learn more about risk of injury to the spine in flexion, then I've got other essays in the Christopher Hole Academy which you can find out. There's a link below to that which you can read them, but that's not for this episode. So then we come on to differences. Now, with regards to differences, now we can start talking about the different muscle activations. So basically the depth changes the muscle activation. So if we're talking about parallel squats, that will tend to target quads more. As we go deeper, so as we go beyond sort of 90, 100 degrees and we start to get deeper down into the squat, this will then change more towards glute max. And by understanding this, we can start to understand which squat's going to be more advantageous for a particular person. If someone wants to build their quad strength, then a parallel squat will be just fine, probably better than the full squat. If they want to build more glute max adductor type strength, then they would start to go in deeper. But again, we would also have that caveat of proper technique as well. Obviously then we can then discuss there are other ways of building the glutes with other exercises. So if we're doing a squat, we don't necessarily have to focus on glutes as a muscle to activate if we don't want to. If you want to, then you can. If you can get down into that position loaded, then that's absolutely fine. You can use them. But for most people that can't, parallel squats will be fine. Build the quads and then choose another exercise to build the glutes. What's also been found is that squat depth is goal specific. As I've just described, there's one goal of building glutes more than quads. So we might use the full squat to get down there. If we are talking about more like sporting or athletic type goals, so jumping and sprinting are two that have been measured, and the parallel squat and partial squat have been found to be more advantageous for jumping and sprinting. Full squats, generally not. So we can start to understand, obviously, first of all, where the similarities are. Most people can use either squat, and the parallel squat will be just fine, and even a partial squat will be just fine. If we then go a layer deeper and we start thinking about goal specific type of training, then we can start to pick and choose which squat we want, if we want to use the deep squat for the glutes or if we want to use other ones. So those are the similarities and differences. Let's now look at advantages and disadvantages. At the Christopher Hall Training Academy, we believe in balance, not just in movement, but also in knowledge as well. Our courses give you a clear, evidence-based insight into low back pain, core strength and stability, maintaining muscle mass, building bone density. We try and give you what works, what doesn't work, but also why, the advantages, the disadvantages, the pros, the cons, so you can make the best decision for your health that you can make. You'll learn the pros, the cons, the different approaches. You can make much more informed choices that fit with your body and your goals. You can empower yourself with balanced, practical information from these courses. So join the Christopher Hall Training Academy, where the science meets strength and learning leads to lasting results. So please do click the link below, get yourself signed up. Advantages to the deep squat. First of all, because of it being a deep squat, it uses a greater range of movement. So what we get from that is number one, it will give you a broader strength across that full range of movement. So obviously parallel squats or partial squats only take you through, again, a partial range of movement. So it will only give you strength within those ranges of movement. The full squat obviously takes you through a full knee flexion and, let's just say, basically a full hip flexion as well. With regards to the ankle, we'll discuss that in a second, but it doesn't have to go into a full range of movement if you've got greater ranges of movement of the ankle. So people with lesser ranges of movement of the ankle don't need to worry so much. So the first one is the broader strength gain through the range of movement. The second thing, which is quite closely linked to that, is through those greater ranges of movement, you also get an improved joint health, if that makes sense. So it has a benefit to the cartilage, synovial fluid, ligaments, tendons, and then obviously the muscles, because going through that full range of movement, if we take the ligaments as an example, they give a basic stability to the joint. They are a passive tissue, but when you take them through a full range of movement, they are able to stabilize the joint, the hip, the knee, the ankle to a certain degree through that full range of movement. So having a fuller range of movement, or certainly using a fuller range of movement, can be beneficial to the people doing it. So it is just then a case of knowing when to do it, because if one is coming back from an injury to, say, a knee, you wouldn't necessarily want to jump straight into full squat and full bending of the knee and full flexion of the knee, but there will be a time and a place to be able to do that. So building that in and having that and working towards that goal will be advantageous. So those are the basic sort of 2 advantages. There are more. Add them down in the comments below if you've got any more advantages to deeper squats, but just for the purposes of this is all we're going to talk about. If you want to look up this more, click the link in the description, go through to the Christopher Hold Training Academy, sign up to join, and you can read this essay plus others in there. Obviously, there's loads of short courses in there as well. There's loads of content in there. So, disadvantages of deeper squats. Now, the angle may in fact be lower than their maximum range of movement. So what we are talking about here is people's range of movement and being able to hold that range of movement. So the deeper squat, so the hip flexion required to do a deep squat may be more than the person has. And what then will happen are compensatory movements to get down. So you may get foot collapse, you may get knee valgus, you may get spine flexion, you may get all these different things that come along with not having the range of movement. The same can happen at the knee and the same can happen at the ankle. So we have to take that into consideration when we are programming and introducing deep squats into a program. Now, there are different ways. We can goblet squat, which changes the center of gravity. So again, as I mentioned at the start, this isn't an exhaustive look at squats. We're just trying to compare deep squats and parallel squats. What I hope this does is help people think that when they see a video in social media and they go, oh, so-and-so said to do deep squats because they're great, therefore I'm going to do them. That may not be the case for you at that time, but you can work towards getting to that point. There's nothing wrong with that, but we need to be a little bit more intelligent about the way we go programming. That is the overriding message of this video, is for people not to just buy into all these influencers out there that are arguing amongst themselves, and you see all the reaction videos that they react to each other, and it's like, this is wrong, I'm right, they're wrong, I'm right. It's like, guys, stop. Everyone has their message, every exercise has their place. You've just got to understand it for the right person at the right time. But yes, that's me going off on a tangent. Coming back to disadvantages of deep squats, we've got these increased ranges of movement also raise the potential risk of injury. So we've talked about spine flexion already. So if someone doesn't have range of movement at the hip, they can flex the spine. If that spine is then loaded, that's going to put them at a greater risk of injury. If they've had a knee problem, they're getting into it too early, that's going to put them at greater risk of injury. Again, if you want to read the spine flexion thing, go across to the Academy, essays in there. There's loads of videos on it as well. About spine flexion, loading it, and potential risk of injury there. So the deep squat isn't the holy grail, which is sort of, I guess, what you get from this. It has its uses, but we have to think about who's using it and when they're using it to be able to get the most from it. And the final part before we wrap this all up and talk about sort of the 4 main points to get from this video, we're going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of partial and parallel squats. Now, The first one is in partial and parallel squats, you can lift a higher weight. So the absolute load that can be lifted is greater than in deeper squats. Obviously, we have certain muscle activations from that because we aren't going down as far, which we've already discussed. So if it is just a strength gain with, a 1 rep max improvement, generally 1 rep maxes would be parallel squats, then parallel and partial squats are adequate to get someone by. Now again, if we're talking about elite level powerlifters, then there's going to be, the story will be slightly different. I'm talking for the general population and let's just say fitness enthusiasts. We just need to think a little bit more about what we're doing. What it also is able to do is reduce the risk of injury with the higher load because we aren't going through such a fuller range of movement. So we kind of get a little bit of a twofold there. And also studies have showed that shallower squats are a lot more sport specific. We've talked about that in the similarities and differences with regards to the sport specific nature. So jumping and sprinting, parallel to partial squats, again, they're adequate. If you were talking about jumping and sprinting, you could then bring in single leg exercises as well, and you can take it further than we're going to take it in this video, which is kind of what I'm talking about. So we can lift heavier weight, and it's a little bit more sport specific with regards to what we want to get from it. Now, the disadvantages is due to that specific nature and the shorter range of movement. What it doesn't do is it will give you the strength relative to the range of movement that you're using. So you'll get strong at the top of the movement, but you won't necessarily get strong at the bottom of the movement, which is where the deep squat would come in, because you get that greater level of strength, which again we've talked about through that broader range of movement. Plus you can get muscle, let's just call them muscle imbalances because of the greater activation. So with regards to the muscles that are active in the partial and the parallel squats, it's the quads. Generally, you don't get a lot of hamstring activation in these. Again, all that's referenced below. There may well be people that disagree with that, but it's referenced below. You can read that if you want to. So sort of quads versus hamstrings versus glutes, and then glutes are more active the further down you go. So we've kind of talked about all of those as we've gone through. So as you can sort of tell, parallel squats and partial squats aren't the holy grail either. What we have to do, and which is what we can conclude with, is that optimal training will typically use both of these. They'll use them loaded, they'll use them body weight. So deeper squats will generally be done body weight. Partial squats can be used for strength gains, but you can build up to greater ranges of movement of that strength gain. So it's all about planning it optimally and not buying into one over the other, but buying into them one over the other for a specific goal and one over the other for another specific goal, depending on where you want to take it. So it's all about the proper programming of the squats. The second thing is deeper squats promote greater hypertrophy and strength across that greater range of movement, but the caveat that comes with that is that it's performed safely and with the proper technique. Because if we use deeper squats at higher loads with poor technique, we put joints at a greater risk of injury. That doesn't mean it's going to prevent an injury, it just means it's heightening that risk. And then finally, partial and parallel squats allow heavier loading, where you can get greater sport-specific gains, get greater quadriceps muscle activation from. So again, to bring it full circle in the conclusion, it's all about optimal training or optimal programming of who's using the squat, how they're using it, and when they're using it, and in some respects, why they're using it. So Don't buy into deep squats are the holy grail, parallel squats are the holy grail. They both have their place, they both have their uses. All it needs is for the individual to understand which one they need to use, when, and why.